Shroomraver here, and today we are back with the Nickname Academy. Yes indeed, this is the series where I'm going to go through every single Pokemon all the way from Bulbasaur to Zeraora and give every single one of them a nickname, because that is pretty much what I do. In the previous episode, of course, we went from Bulbasaur through to Raticate, giving them nicknames, and this time we're going to do the next 20, I believe it is, going from Spearow through to Wigglytuff. As I say, there's no real structure to when these videos are going to be uploaded. There's no schedule here because nicknaming is an ongoing process. I've just peaked over 300 so far. So, you know, the process is ongoing, but we are going to get there. So, without further ado, let's dive right in from where we last left off, which was Raticate, and go into our next one. And that is going to be Spearow. Spearow, I'm going to be nicknaming Lewin. Now, fans of Game of Thrones will recognise this name. Maester Lewin is the old Maester of Winterfell. Now, if you haven't seen Game of Thrones, this is spoilers, so you know, try and catch up with that before you read through this one. Now, Maester Lewin was the Maester of Winterfell before he was brutally killed by, who were they called? The Greyjoys. They came in, took over Winterfell and killed him. He was run through with a spear. So he was stabbed with a spear. I imagine that hurt quite a bit. So he'd have just been like, ow. So spear plus ow gives you Spearow. Lovely. Nicely done there. So that's Spearow. Spearow's evolution. Of course, the next one on our list is going to be Fearow. Now, Fearow is going to be nicknamed NAVIPHOBIA. Now, for those of you who don't know, NAVIPHOBIA is a fear of boats. Any kind of boat, really, from the big old cruise ships to your little rowing boats. So if you've got NAVIPHOBIA, you are going to have a fear of anything to do with boats, probably including rowing. So you would fear row. Combining those two words there to give us Fearow. Ah, yes. We are continuing with our ridiculousness here. They're all fairly silly in their own way. And we've got some even weirder ones coming up. So stick around and we will get to them. Strap yourselves in. It's going to be a wild ride. Next on the list is going to be Ekans. Ekans is going to be nicknamed Myth. Now, I did a little bit of research on this one, as I do with most of my nicknames. It's sort of a semi-commonly held belief that snakes are one of those animals that cannot move backwards. A lot of animals can't move backwards. You don't see like birds flying backwards. You just see fish swimming backwards all that often. And there's this kind of belief that has been upheld for a while that snakes can't move backwards. Now, this is in fact a myth. Snakes can move backwards just fine. You know, they've got those reticulated bodies. They can slither backwards. It's fairly common that you see it. As far as it's common that you would see snakes. So, you know, snakes backwards is a myth. And here we have Ekans, which is snakes spelled backwards. So, there you go. Snakes backwards. Perfectly doable. It's a myth. Ekans' evolution, of course, next on our list is going to be Arbok. This is another one of my really silly ones. Arbok here is going to be nicknamed Orlando. Now, this is not nicknamed after the location in America. It's a completely different country and a completely different continent. We are looking to Africa for this one. The Orlando Pirates are a South African football team. Now, when it comes to South African sport, they are often known as the Springboks, which is shortened to the Boks. Most common, I think, really with rugby, but I think it sort of permeates all levels of sport for them. And because they're the Orlando Pirates, in sort of common storytelling, pirates, those ones making sort of noises like "arr," you know, they all make those noises. Not that I want to do sweeping stereotypes, but it's the kind of thing you associate with them. So you've got "arr" and you've got the Boks. "Arr" plus Bok gives you Arbok. So with all those links together, we can call Arbok Orlando. So that's Arbok. Next up, we have the mascot of the entire Pokemon franchise, ladies and gentlemen. We have got everyone's favourite little electric mouse, often copied, never quite redone in the same way. We've got Pikachu! Yes, Pikachu is here. Pikachu is going to be nicknamed Sneeze Frame. Bit of an odd one. Let's go into why. Now, a picture, the shortened version of that is a pic. You often say sort of profile pics and all this kind of stuff. And a picture is a still of what's happened. It's a freeze frame. of a moment in life. And the reason we're going with sneeze frame is because the noise you make, the onomatopoeic noise of the sneeze is achoo. So you've got pick, achoo, Pikachu. Could be a freeze frame, but because we've got the sneeze noise, we've called it sneeze frame. Why not? Next up, of course, Pikachu evolves into Raichu. Now we're not going to go with not gonna write you a love song kind of deal. That's boring, everyone's done that. We're going to go with something completely different that I picked up off of Bake Off, actually. We're going to call it SMORREBROD, which I don't know if that's the right pronunciation. Hamlet, if you're watching this, please let me know if I've got that correct, because SMORREBROD is a Danish open sandwich. It was one of the challenges on Bake Off was Danish Week. I thought they were just going to be making Danish pastries, but no, it was Danish food. And SMORREBROD is a Danish open sandwich often made with rye bread, which can be kind of chewy. So, you know, if you're going to be chewing on some rye chew, you're going to be eating SMORREBROD, and that is why we've nicknamed Raichu with that. And that one will go for the Alolan form as well. There are potential things here that you could do differently with the Alolan Raichu with the surfboard thing. I haven't really looked into it too much, so I've just gone with the same nickname for both forms. Next up, we have a couple more Alolan form possibilities here. We're starting off with Sandshrew. Sandshrew is going to be called Hero. Now, the reason we're going to call it Hero is because there is a breed of shrew called the Hero Shrew. I can't exactly remember where you find it in the world, but it is called the Hero Shrew, and it has another name, and that other name is the Armoured Shrew. And as we can see from the picture, Sandshrew, as we know, very much armoured with its whole armour plating. And again, that goes for the Alolan form as well. We will be using it for both of those because they're basically both shrews that are armoured. There's no particular real difference between them in terms of how we're going to nickname them, so we're going with the same one, Hero, for both forms of Sandshrew. Similar thing up next is Sandslash. Now, if you've watched me in League games, you'll know actually Sandslash is one of my most drafted Pokemon, and I generally call it Pangolin because it's a pangolin, but it's got spikes, so it's all painful. But we've gone with something a little bit sillier than that. We've gone with Si/O2. Now, SiO2 is the chemical formula of silicon dioxide, which is a major component of sand. But the reason we've put a slash in there is because we've got Sandslash. So what we've got there is the chemical formula for sand with a slash through it. Sandslash. Lovely and done. So, moving on to the Nidorans. Starting up with Nidoran Female. Now, these took me a little while, some of them. Nidoran Female, we're going to call Nestle. Now, unfortunately, the text I've used on the screen, you can't see accents. It's the same thing with the Raichu. There's supposed to be those slashes through the O's on SMORREBROD, but we can't do them because of the font I've used. So, Nestle here, Nidoran Female. We all know what Nestle is. It's that lovely confectionery company. And some of the sort of brands they own include something called Nido. I saw this actually on the trip to London with my friends last week. We saw it in a shop. Nido is a milk powder packaged in a big tin. But Nido as a brand name is owned by Nestle. So therefore Nestle runs Nido. So it's Nidoran by Nestle. Nidoran was really hard to do, guys. It was really hard to do, but that's the best we've got from Nidoran Female. Moving on to Nidorina, and this is even stupider, guys. We've gone with SARUNDS. SARUNDS is another product name. SARUNDS is a company that makes all sorts of, again, confection-based things, including a game called Chocolate Battleships, which sounds really fun. You know, you sink them, you eat them. Fun fact, when I was at university, we got 2 massive Domino's pizza boxes and built ships out of paper and put shot glasses in them and played giant shot battleships with an ironing board between the 2 boards with like a sheet over it so no one could see what the other side was doing. Long story for another time. It's fine, we're getting sidetracked. SARUNDS makes chocolate battleships. Now we're going with Nido again from the Nidoran name. Nido being that milk powder, and this can be used in the creation of chocolate. You know, you get milk chocolate. But let's focus on RINA. RINA is an acronym for the Royal Institution of Naval Architects. So if you were going to be a naval architect building boats, making battleships out of chocolate using Nido, the milk powder, crush them together, you've got ingredient potentially in chocolate, shipbuilding, Nido plus Rena gives us Nidorina, and the company is SARUNDS. So there we go. Final one in that evolutionary line, of course, is Nidoqueen. This is a nickname I've had for a very long time. We're going to call this one 1650. Now, the reason behind that, in England in 1650, the Puritan regime was just after the Civil War, and the Puritans, led by Oliver Cromwell, had won, and they had taken power in England. Now, the Puritan regime was quite stoically religious, and they didn't like distractions of any kind, so all the churches were whitewashed, all the the lovely sort of golden and embroidered statues and tapestries and everything, they were taken out of churches. But another thing they got rid of was most forms of mass public entertainment. They didn't go in for it. So you can imagine that it wasn't really a very fun place to be without a royal ruler. So England didn't have a queen. So you can imagine people really wanting fun. They'd be like, we need a queen. Need a queen, need a queen. There we go. So, moving on from Nidoqueen, we've got Nidoran male, and not gonna lie, there's very little difference between Nidoran male and Nidoran female in terms of just them as Pokemon, so we've gone with exactly the same nickname as before, Nestle, for exactly the same reasons. I know it's lazy, but the Nidoran line is really difficult to come up with names for. Really difficult indeed. So, next up we have Nidorino. Nidorino is going to be called Sudan. Now, this was in the news several years ago. This is how long I've had this nickname for. Sudan was the name of the last male northern white rhino. He was in captivity, and it was a big story actually over in the UK, certainly. He was the last one of his kind. And he didn't, they were really worried that the northern white rhinos were going to die out. And I believe they did, they're technically extinct now. Because he didn't have a mating partner at all. If he was going to have any kind of lineage, they're going to have to crossbreed. They didn't have a female northern white rhino for Sudan to mate with. So Sudan was like, I need a rhino. I need a rhino. There we go. And finally up, as someone messages me, we have Nidoking. Nidoking is going to be called Denethor. Now, for those of you who know Lord of the Rings, we've gone back to a fantasy realm with Lord of the Rings. Denethor was the steward of Gondor. And to be honest, he was kind of rubbish at his job. No one really liked him, and when Aragorn was going to come back, he was like, Gondor needs no king. But he was really rubbish, so Gondor was like, yeah, we need a king. Nidoking. Lots of that kind of thematic mashing of things together to form phonetically the names of the Pokemon in the Nido lines there. So, after that we have Clefairy. Now, Clefairy is going to be called ACTIVEWEAR. Why is that? Well, if you look at pictures of Clefairy, you'll notice in all of them, Clefairy only has one tooth, which is odd. One Tooth, I did a bit of research, is the name of a Canadian activewear clothing company. They make clothes for like yoga and stuff like that. So One Tooth Activewear, Clefairy has one tooth, we called it Activewear. And Clefairy evolves into Clefable. Now this is the only time, hopefully, that I'm going to sort of, you know, just go with something silly that I've used myself. It doesn't really have too much of a thematic reason. Clefable is and always will be Nonk. When I was doing a stream of a red randomizer with Gen 5 Pokemon way back in the day, I was suffering badly. I had a Cleffa that evolved all the way into a Clefable, and I think it was Sasha was just like, nickname it Nonk. So I nicknamed it Nonk, and literally Nonk was the MVP. It just didn't care. Hashtag Nonk does not care. It survived every hit. Super effective, doesn't matter. Nonk was living, and Nonk saw us through to the end of that entire playthrough. So Clefable will always be Nonk. Next up in the line is going to be Vulpix, and Vulpix, I can't actually pronounce its nickname because Vulpix's nickname is a link. Now, if you follow this bit.ly link, it will take you to a Google search page on images for images of the Vilnius University Library in Lithuania. The Vilnius University Library is often abbreviated down, because it's quite long, it is abbreviated down to VUL, Vul. So that link will take you to a bunch of pictures of that. So it's Vulpix. And that nickname works for the Alolan form as well. Again, Vulpix, difficult to really, thematically based on the Pokemon itself, find different nicknames. Not quite the case in the next instance, as we have Ninetales. I'm not going to go with Firefox. Everyone uses Firefox. We're going sillier than that. We've gone with Salinger. And this is named after J.D. Salinger, who is a US fiction writer. And among J.D. Salinger's many publications was a book of 9 short stories. I think it's just called 9 Stories. So yeah, 9 short stories. They're 9 tales. And that's Ninetales. Now the Alolan form is going to be different. It's going to have a slightly different nickname, and that's going to be called IE. Now that stands for Internet Explorer. Now while we're not using Firefox for the regular Ninetales, we're going to use IE for Alolan Ninetales, because it's like Firefox, but it freezes. Oh, I love that one. I've never really had too many problems with Internet Explorer, but I don't use it because Chrome's better. But yeah, that's where we have Alolan Ninetales. Next up, we have Jigglypuff. Very simple one here. Jigglypuff is going to be called Pink with the exclamation mark instead of the I. Named after the singer. Jigglypuff's pink and she sings. It's pretty much where we're going with that. And Jigglypuff, of course, evolves into Wigglytuff. Wigglytuff is going to be called Earthworm Jim from those fantastic games for Game Boy Color way back in the day. I had one of those. Earthworms are all wiggly, they wiggle around. And Earthworm Jim, he's pretty tough. So he's an earthworm, he's Earthworm Jim, he's wiggly and he's tough. Wigglytuff. Done. So, that is going to be it for this particular episode, episode 2 of the Nickname Academy. Thank you all very much for watching, I do hope you've enjoyed. Do remember, of course, to leave your nicknames down in the comment section below. I always love reading the nicknames that you guys come up for with the Pokemon. It fills me with such joy to see the kind of things you all come up with. Next time we'll be kicking off with Zubat, but I'm going to get out of here because that is where we're going to finish up today. So thank you all once again very much for watching, and remember, every Pokemon deserves a nickname, so make sure you give it one. Thank you all, my final time for watching. I guess with that, I'll see you next time. Laters.